always play the wrong intro.
I was going to say, I'm not doing
Always. I'm not good at this producer stuff. I'm actually talking to somebody about producing everything, like hiring somebody as a producer for stuff because I'm so bad at all that technical stuff. Yeah, I can't even click the right button to claim the right. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't claim your power. This is Tya Talk.
Yes. That's all right.
So and you're not Debbie G. You're Erica Mitchell.
I am Erica Mitchell.
Recent Tya Bootcamp graduate and Tya group guide, Erica Mitchell.
Yes.
So if you've interacted with Erica Mitchell, this is the non-virtual, well, I guess still virtual.
Still virtual.
Still virtual, but a little more live version.
On screen.
On screen version, not just typing back and forth version of Erica. So thank you for joining me this morning. We're going to dive into a few interesting topics. We're going to talk about working with multiple spiritual teachers and the confusion that might cause and how to solve that. And the solution isn't just working with me. Just work with the stream of David and you don't have to worry about anything else. I believe that's true, but we're going to really get into actual a technique to really kind of discern what your preference is and define what's right for you. And then why working more in a singular mode can be very, at least from time, from in a time span, can be very valuable. The other thing we're going to talk about is all of the offerings that we have in the Tya Practice Group. If you're watching this in the Tya Practice Group, that means you're already a member of it. If you are not a member of the Tya Practice Group, go to Facebook and join the Tya Practice Group. And then we're going to wrap up with our favorite topic lately that we're going to probably be talking about forever now is what is life in the matrix and what is life out of the matrix? How do you know if you're in? How do you know if you're out? And how to move out of the matrix if you want to move out of the matrix, because there's no rules. So let's dive into the multiple teachers. How many spiritual teachers or modalities have you experienced in your journey up until now?
I would say many. It was for me back in 2014, really, when I started exploring like personal development and spirituality and stuff like that. So I've always, had many people I followed and listened to. And for me, I just take what resonates and leave the rest, right? But I get where a lot of confusion can come in because I was just thinking about it this morning. There's so many out there now, right? There's so many people, becoming influencers and offering advice and stuff like that. So for me, it's just always been really, I just have to hone into what resonates with me. But yeah, there's been quite a few I'll follow, for a while. And sometimes I actually end up, leaving the teachings, get the information that I need from them and then move on.
Yeah. And I think that that's not unusual for people to have sort of a journey of, and I think sometimes I always say that the stream and the stream of David and Tya is fairly advanced for someone that's very new, but maybe that's just my ego talking, because we do get people that have not done any spiritual work whatsoever. And they discover us usually via the podcast, and it really speaks to them and they dig right into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will come back and say, I heard this other person that channels called Esther Hicks and Abraham. Have you ever heard of them?
Oh, how funny.
I have.
Well, because usually Esther Hicks, and Abraham.
Deepak person. Have you heard of Deepak or Oprah? So, I think it's all part of the journey. Right?
Yeah. How funny.
The typical journey, and I think maybe it's the typical journey because I attract it, because this was my journey. I discovered I knew law of attraction innately from what we now call the stream. But the first time I read something that really, really lit me up and resonated with me on it, more than Think and Grow Rich, because Think and Grow Rich is from 1942 or something like that. If you know the answer to that, you can correct me in here. I read that book early on and I got the concept of it, but all of the stuff about the mastermind group and it was very much of the time. So it was only for men. This doesn't work for women. It's only for men.
Right.
Make sure your wife is supporting you in this, that sort of talk, because it was from the 1940s. It just wasn't, I think it wasn't current enough for me to really, I get the concept of this, but there's a lot of rules in here. and I've never been about rules, and I've never gotten from source that we have to have specific rules to follow or that everyone's path is the same. So it was giving you a formula, but it was one of those sort of you must do it this way formulas. So the thing that really lit me up was the secret book. That really was like, wow, this is what I've been understanding my whole life, and now I understand that other people get it too. And it's not such a secret, but it's a knowing that is widely ignored and doubted and even feared.
Yeah, I can see that. And when I first started in a spiritual path journey, but personal growth,
Whatever.
it
No,
was,
no rules. You can call it whatever you want.
right. It was more,
You call it a spiritual shit show if you want. When I started my
yes,
spiritual shit
that
show,
too.
yeah, for a lot of people it is. I get it. I totally get it. And that's good.
Yeah, but the law of attraction didn't come till later, till I really started learning those principles and concepts and stuff like that. So for me, it was just about self growth. Like, how can I just grow myself? Because I've always been, fascinated by learning and just all of that stuff. And then the law of attraction kind of came around and the thought of manifesting. And I think for me, I had been doing it my whole life, but just didn't really put two and two together. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think what happens is a lot of people may really be agnostic or atheist, not really thinking about anything spiritual at all. But when they start thinking in terms of having the things they want, especially money, it gets your attention all of a sudden. Like, oh, here's a path to why some people are successful and why many others are not. And that's very appealing to people. And then they inevitably get into spirituality. It's like money's the gateway drug that get people into spiritual teaching sometimes.
absolutely. And I think that so many people that have followings or influencers, that's their main aim these days, is to really, it's like follow the money trail, the money
Yeah.
trail.
Yeah, that it definitely sells books and it gets you followers on Instagram. And I had somebody that follows me on Instagram and her following is just blowing up. And we started messaging back and forth. And, and I said, how do you have so many followers on Instagram? This is so impressive. She says, I just make sure I always tell them what they want to hear. Tell them what they want to hear. Tell them that they're victims. Tell them that, the world is a terrible place and there's dark energy out to get them and all this stuff. And it was really cynical. And I was kind of funny that she was that transparent with me, but I
Right.
appreciated in the end that, that's your thing. That's what you're doing. And your followers are into that. And you're probably serving them on some level. And that's cool.
Yeah.
All of that fear-based stuff really works. It really, really works. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't really work for what we do because we're so about not being about that doesn't connect. We don't connect on that level because I'm not going to use fear to get somebody drawn into the message and then tell them, oh, by the way, we're all about detuning fear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fear is what brought me here. So now you're telling me, I even had a marketer say to use fear to get them in and then give them what they need after that, which I thought was kind of interesting. But
Right. And I can believe that, because right now there's just, and it's almost like there's two sides of fear right now, that are being just pushed on social media platforms. And so I,
you mean too, like the polarized, like political
yeah,
sides? Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we're
like,
going to get into that because that's a good old
right.
matrix right
But
there.
there's
Yeah.
but there's the two extremes of it. And so when
Sure.
you zoom out and you just like look at it, you're like, whoa, right? There's, this one side that's pushing this fear, and then the other,
And at the end of the day, it's all fear.
and it is.
Yeah. So I'm not going to use fear to, if I have to use fear to have followers or to have, business success, then that's just not going to work because that's just not my vibe is giving
Right.
fear and fear-based stuff. So if you're watching, I see a lot of you are popping on now. Say hello. Some of you already have. I see a hello from a Facebook user. If you haven't registered on this platform, it just shows us Facebook user. Deborah, good to see you. And Sam, good to see you as well. So if you have questions, you have comments, if you have something that you want to talk, this is Tya Talk. So if you have something that you want to talk about or ask, go ahead and pop it in and Eric and I will address it. But to move back to the finding your path, mine started with the secret, and then my discovery of Abraham, I've told the story so many times, I'm not going to tell it again, that, the psychic told me that I was a channel and I should listen to
Right.
Abraham. And I didn't listen to Abraham until Abraham sort of came to me, which was
Right.
really amazing. And then it was really, really lit me up. Like, okay, this is so much more than The Secret. And
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand is that The Secret, Abraham was originally involved in The Secret, and then they had some sort of falling out, some sort of legal dispute over intellectual property, and then there was a separation there. But it
Oh,
seems like The Secret is sort of a really scrubbed up version of the Abraham teachings, kind of for mass appeal. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I
okay.
think that they are reaching with that book and those teachings a step one audience. And then to go beyond that, especially people that are just starting to think about the energetic realm and how we are beings of the energetic realm and wanting to understand deeper, and then to get into a channel, that's way out there for a lot of humanity. Oh, this person is speaking what? They're
Right.
in a trance. They're being, controlled by another being. They're being possessed, or they're faking it. I could just imagine, and I still completely understand all of those thoughts. That's why when somebody asks me, what do you think when somebody thinks that you're fake or that you're being possessed or that you're a demon? I've heard that before. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
It doesn't bother me at all. That's the experience they're having, and that's the opinion they have of this. And if it's not right for them, as the stream has even said, they're right to move on past it. So what came up in the masterclass on Saturday was a really good question, and I forgot who asked it, but a really good question about, there's so much confusion because I follow this teacher and hear this thing, and I follow that teacher and hear another thing, and then I follow this teacher over here and I hear something totally different. And the stream has said that we all create our own bubble of reality.
Right.
So in our bubble of reality, the only thing that matters is what you choose to give power to. So you could discover Catholicism and decide to give power to Catholicism and have Jesus be your savior, and have the church dictate, your rules, and believe that that's delivering a joyous life. And it can, because we're creating our own bubble of reality. So it really isn't about which teacher is right and which teacher is wrong. That's the matrix. That's polarity.
Yes.
It's really understanding your own bubble of reality and just what lights you up, what resonates with you. And maybe something lights you up and resonates for a period, and then that light dims, and it's time for you then to move on to something else
Right.
or deeper into it. It's your choice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that with people that we've worked with over the years, is a small handful will move on to something else. Many will just kind of go out with the Tya tools and just live their lives. And a lot more of you now are all going deeper into it, and you're going into more advanced study of it, and becoming coaches and doing all sorts of things, which is really makes me happy, because I understand that we're really serving our audience when that's happening.
Mhm. Right. Well, and I think for me, the reason Taya has just stuck with me is the tools and the daily practices and just being in community and all of that. So it
Yeah,
truly.
but having the community is very important, because other people don't understand us. The people that are, and this is not to judge people that are in the matrix. We're all a little bit in the matrix.
Absolutely.
Kaya is about moving yourself systematically out of it. I don't know that there is a ticket out of the matrix completely other than death. If I
Yes.
find it, I'll let you know. If I'm ever completely out of the matrix, where I'm never fearing and never judging, I will let you know. But
Yeah.
that's not where I am in my journey. And the stream has said that you're not going to do that as long as you're human. No matter
No,
who
I,
the human being is, how revered they are, there's an element of them existing in the matrix, because you're still tethered to the collective consciousness of humanity, no matter what.
yeah. And I think, I mean, there's always new things popping up, right? So even as you expand and grow in your practice, it's new obstacles and new things coming at you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the new stuff is created by vibrational flow. We talk about that quite a bit, where vibrational flow is going to take you down your spiral. And when you go down your spiral, no matter who you are, you're going to manifest or some obstacles, de-manifest some desires. And that's going to give you a human experience, which is really all about launching you into new creation. That's what polarity is all about. That's why we have obstacles and challenges, and no matter what we do, and we're all driven to solve.
Right.
It's good that we're driven to solve, because we're driven to solve something, and we have this utopian ideal of what our life or what society is going to be like when we finally solve all the problems. And even though I think even logically you have to know it's not possible to do that in a lifetime or even multiple
Yeah.
lifetimes, that drives us forward. That sort of calls us. That's our ego pushing us to, yes, you can do this. You can solve this thing. You move through this experience, and your soul is sort of calling you forward, saying, yes, come this way. There is even more enlightenment for you. There is even more sophistication. There is more abundance yet to be experienced by you.
Absolutely. And I think just embracing that, right, is so helpful. Just to
Yeah,
know,
that's
right?
everything. Embracing that and not, fearing it and
Pushing
not
against it.
demonizing.
Right.
And the demonization is the big one, to go through a period where you are moving into spiritual teachings, and those spiritual teachings are demonizing of anything, including organized religion, or dark energy from the universe, being piped in. Anything that is being demonized, that's polarity when you're demonizing something. So to kind of move into a little bit of the matrix discussion, you're in the matrix when you're polarized. So if you need to go get on the left or the right of any issue, then you're in polarity. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with polarity, because a lot of the people that we see right now that are pushing back and protesting and pushing against, they're
Mhm.
fueling more of it for sure, but they're also creating energetic movement on that topic. So it
Right.
brings things to light, and as Thyists, we can view it and observe it and move out of the polarity of it and just appreciate all of it and not be drawn into the experience of the matrix, which is phenomenal in my opinion.
No, absolutely. Being in, it took me a long time to really understand that concept of observing, right? Like, how do you how do you get out of that? Almost like fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
Um, but once you learn that practice of just observing and just letting it kind of be what it is, yeah, you find so much more joy in life.
Yeah, because you don't need to take a side. And it's so funny how we're taught that you have to take a side, you have to take a stand. And if you don't take a stand, and I understand the idea behind that, because a lot of spiritual practices are kind of about bypassing or burying your head in the sand. Uh, and I'm not saying that to demonize that, because I do think that that's maybe a good path for some. Because if you are so steeped in the matrix and you are glued to your television or glued to Facebook, what's going on now, what's going on at the border, and what's going on in Canada, and what's going on in Russia, and all of this stuff, and it just is scaring the hell out of you and dragging your vibration down and making you fearful, therefore making you miserable, then you
Hmm.
are better to go put your head in the sand and forget about that stuff for a while. That
Right.
will raise your vibration to just shut it all down. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and I've been through that period. I went through a whole period where I didn't
We-
watch the news. I really don't watch. It's funny. Once I stopped watching TV, I haven't really gone back to it. There's like a handful of things that I'll watch, but just sitting and staring like a zombie at the television, flipping through channels, that used to be my life years and years and years ago, and I
Really?
haven't wanted to go back to that.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of it's just because there's nothing really of quality, in my opinion, out there. Very little. There's certain shows that come out that I think are fantastic, and I'll totally get into them. But just to be the zombie on Facebook or the zombie on a news channel, and you're just consuming, yeah, that's definitely programming your subconscious mind.
Absolutely. And
And
that's,
it,
I mean, but just like we're talking about different spiritual teachers and practices, I mean, you have to discern with that too, just like the TV, just like
yeah,
anything you consume, right? Anything you consume, you
yeah,
kind of have
anything.
to.
Our bodies are filtration systems. I love what the stream says.
Mhm.
Our bodies are filtration systems that we use to experience the earth environment.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
Food, beverage, sight, sound, smell, information, ideas, all of it. We're just drinking it all in, and we're
Hmm.
moving through the experience, and we're filtering it out one way or the other. But we don't filter everything out the same. And there's certainly some things that we hang on to.
Absolutely.
And the thing that makes us hang on to stuff usually in the body is some sort of anxiety based, emotion that causes us to hang on to stuff. And it causes every type of illness there is.
Hmm.
And I came to realize more so recently in my meditation and my sharing of the stream that anxiety really is that judgment of your ego pushing you and your soul calling you forward, because there's a tension there between those two vibrations. And that
Hmm.
tension, again, is natural. That tension is there because we're moving through vibrational flow, and that tension is there to give us this human experience that knocks us out of that high vibration sometimes and allows us to create obstacles.
Right.
So that's what anxiety is. If you want a definition of anxiety, it really, if you want to boil it, we boil everything down to raw, energetic realm, spiritual ideas. And it really does boil down to that. You've got your ego, your human self pushing you forward, which is not a bad thing. And then you've got your soul sort of loving you and calling you forward. And they're not always in harmony. When they're not, you feel anxiety. So Tya, the design of Tya is to move through these experiences without judgment and fear, understanding that whatever thing that you're manifesting that wasn't a desire, it really is a desire on a soul level. Because no
Right.
matter what it is, we're here to experience humanity, and it's not being judged by the energetic realm or by your soul the way our human consciousness judges it.
Yeah, and I think so often we do. We judge our ego. We, try to, well, I mean, it's that term, like they're just in their ego, right? But at the same time, like our ego does serve a purpose. And so it's kind of like just acknowledging it when you get into that anxiety, just acknowledging that I get it. You're here to keep me safe. Thank you. But I'm
Yeah.
but I'm gonna go forward anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going to detune the fear and judgment around this. And as soon as I do, the anxiety dissipates.
Yeah.
Because when you detune fear and judgment, you're clear. When you're
Right.
clear, you're not in anxiety. You just aren't going to be, because you're source connected. And
Absolutely.
we all know what that feels like, because we take our vibe up sometimes in meditation. We take our vibe up in appreciation. You can take your vibe up in prayer, because that's just another form of meditation and appreciation. You can take your vibe up naturally just by withdrawing your attention from the angst of that vibrational journey into a
Mm,
low thought activity.
yes.
That's why low thought activities are a great path to raising your vibration. I've got to focus on doing this little thing now that I know how to do very well, but I still need to
Mhm.
focus on it. And I feel instantaneously better when I do it. They call it cathartic usually. Like ironing clothes can be cathartic for some. If you're not
Right.
judging the fact that you're having to iron clothes, then you
Yes.
can actually enjoy the process of ironing clothes or doing whatever it is you're doing. A lot of times, household chores are a gift.
Yes. Yes.
They're a gift.
Well, a lot of moms, we have like what we call angry cleaning, right? So we just clean and tidy because it just channels that energy into something productive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely it takes your mind off of that negative train of thought that's holding you down. You're channeling your energy toward the low thought activity, but it's not particularly challenging to you because it's a low thought activity. It's
Absolutely.
something that you know how to do, that it just takes your focus to do it. Ironing is a great example, because you do have to pay attention so that you don't burn yourself or damage what you're ironing. The steam can be a good experience. The smell can be really cool. All of that, it can be a really cool experience.
Yeah.
So
No,
ironing is
that's
one of
good.
those things that I always say is, if you're really DTS down the spiral, go iron something.
Yeah, I haven't
Take real
ironed in
focus
a
on it.
while. I'm gonna have to try. Do it again. How funny.
Somebody told me there was even, it might have been Deborah, there was even ironing therapy in Europe, where people go to ironing therapy classes. There's probably ironing therapy in the back, and it's like a dry cleaner in the front.
Right?
People pay to come for ironing therapy, and then they're charging for dry cleaning services.
Absolutely, as people are
Oh
drawing
my gosh,
as
there's $1 billion idea right there, Erica. God,
well.
let's do it. Let's do the Tya cleaners,
Yeah, yeah, that would be a good one.
and the stream of David ironing therapy. Let's do that. So the The matrix topic, though, is a big one because the matrix is fighting for life.
Mm-hmm.
We see over these past 2 years, and what we've seen is society going through this period. It really kind of ignited in the 60s. If you 60s history, where people really started stepping out of the confines that were really a long period of time prior to that, not just the 40s and 50s, stepping
Right.
out of the confines of the matrix, meaning questioning religion, pushing back on government, all of that sort of thing. And through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, so for all those decades, we have been, 40, 50 years, we have been going through this period where we're questioning. And the more we question, the more clarity we receive. And in receiving that clarity, the churches are fracturing a bit. Many are starting to crumble. A lot fewer people are identifying themselves as religious
Right.
than ever before. So the churches are coming into question. We've certainly seen that with the Catholic Church happening.
Mhm.
A lot of things coming to light that are like, wow, that's very different than the message that you put out there, right?
Right.
So that's all coming to light.
Yeah.
And of course, government is very tied to religion. It's sort of the same vibration, different facade. And so
Right.
many government entities and laws and things like that are tied to religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been questioning the government. And the government is pushing back, wanting to assert itself more everywhere, and certainly
Right.
more in some places than others. I know that we go way beyond North America here. So wherever you're watching from, your government, you have noticed, if you've lived a few decades, is coming under greater and greater questioning, and it's really fracturing and it's falling apart. And people are talking about, who's the next president going to be of the United States. I can't think of anyone.
No.
I can't think of anyone that I want to see as president of the United States
No.
at all, at all. So that's the matrix crumbling. We really, especially once you get out of that polarized thinking and you're no longer giving power to politics, then you don't have a pony in the race anymore. You don't feel like it matters. And I arrived there a long time ago. Um, just not giving power to politics. The person that won the presidency of the United States was certainly not going to dictate my well-being, and they haven't. But it's getting louder and louder and louder now. So when you're into spiritual teachings and you're thinking that you've got to go bury your head in the sand and you've got to shut everything down, you can, but in some cases it will get louder and louder and louder until you can't ignore it. I largely ignored it until the pandemic came along. And then all of a sudden it's, watching businesses being shut down and mask mandates and now vaccine mandates and all that stuff, just kind of staying zoomed out, but just taking note that, wow,
Right.
this is interesting. This is the matrix fighting for life, wanting to divide, wanting to have greater control, because in that division, that's where the greater control comes from, is in the division, which is the matrix.
Yes. And I think in so many ways, just humanity is, rising. We don't need government so much, right? So it's that rising of taking back our power ourselves. And so, like you've talked about, any structure that gets questioned starts to crumble as we, rise up. So
Yeah.
it's within
Yeah.
ourselves,
Well, and it can be very confusing because there's elements of government. I had this conversation on Tya Talk, which we're on Tya Talk right now. I know I did the intro for the wrong show, but oh well. So this is Tya Talk. I'm here with Erica Mitchell and uh, Walt Thiessen, another boot camp grad and host of LOA Today, was on a week or two ago, and I
last
said
week.
something
Yes.
about, yeah, it was last week, having this threshold of having so much government that we have our basic needs met.
Mhm.
And I use the analogy of, I like having red lights. I am not trusting my abundance enough to just plow into an intersection, always believing that I'm going to be abundant and get through the intersection.
Right.
So
Right.
and he even pushed back on that. He was like, well, why? If we're all
Yeah.
really abundant, and well, if we're all really abundant, then you're right. If
Don't
we're all
need.
really abundant, we don't need anything. And of course, if you said that to somebody that was really into the Matrix, they would say, "Oh my God, these people are talking about not having red lights anymore. That's insane." I'm not really talking about that. I'm using an example of that. I'm completely
Right.
at peace with red lights,
I'm okay
but
with red lights.
I like taking that thought out to that far out space where
No,
what
that's
can
a good
go. The
one.
stream will take you there for sure.
Yeah,
The stream is completely there. David's not 100% there. There's a
yeah,
difference between those two things. I'm a student of the stream, but I am not always in alignment. I fall out just like everybody else because I'm in polarity. I'm human. I'm here
right.
having a human experience channeling the stream. So the stream would say they have said if we didn't have rules and laws and judgment, we wouldn't need rules and laws and judgment. It
Right.
just wouldn't be a thing. We would
Yeah,
be in such abundance that yes, we wouldn't need traffic rules because
right.
everyone would be flowing in such abundance that everyone would just be safe.
In sync. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're in a polarized environment. So we do, quote unquote, need some of that stuff because we're in a polarized environment. All of humanity is not on the same journey, not all up to speed, and we're all going to fall in and out of abundance. So if we're vibing a little lower that day and we fly through the intersection, we might crash. And that's our experience, right? Not no
Yes.
judgment in it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to do that.
Right.
So where is the threshold of playing in the matrix and then not needing to be in the matrix? What I see going on right now is there are certain things that the government does for us that work in the matrix, but there are other things that I see imploding that I will always fall on the side of trusting my abundance,
Hmm.
which is more of the freedom from not
Right.
needing mandates, not needing rules, not needing so many laws, a much freer way of operating. And if you're into politics, it'd be very easy to say, well, that's really a right mindset because the left is all about, you do need the government. The government needs to protect everyone and control everything. And you
Right.
need your free healthcare and you need your free college tuition and you need, the government to supply all these things for you.
Hmm.
But it doesn't seem to work very well.
Right. And I
So, how do you rise out of that, but not fall into now I'm over on the right and I'm going to get drawn into that narrative,
think
which I don't want to do because there's plenty of fear and
over
judgment over
there
there.
as well.
Yeah.
No, and I think that is just, stepping into your power, right? Like we
Mm.
are stepping into that power, realizing that we don't need either, right? Like, and we are the ones. I mean, I know for, in the beginning of the pandemic and everything, I got really polarized. And, Tya is the one thing that helped me kind of pull myself out of that polarization, the boot camp, and just the tools that I had, because it really is such an internal job, right? Like we have to go within and see, why is this even bothering me so much? Like, why do I feel so pulled to this or pulled to that belief?
Mhm.
Um, and like we do in boot camp, we dig deep, we dig down and see where the roots are, right?
Yeah, because if you don't get in, that's a big key component of boot camp is going deep into those roots and working with the coaches to really identify.
Yeah.
Having a coach. I work with a coach. I have a Thai coach that I work with. That took
Hmm.
my boot camp that now I go to and say I want to let's go into a space because the stream is people think because I have the stream flowing through me that you've got the answers to everything. I do have the answers to everything in channeling, but I'm
Hmm.
still here having my human experience and
Right.
having that connection to another human being to move through the process of identifying the deeper, darker shadows that I have yet to really shine the light on. That's part of my human experience that I don't want to not have.
Right.
And the stream is not seeking to take that away from me.
Hmm.
That's a big aha because there's so many um, spiritual teachers that sort of put themselves out there as I'm enlightened and I'm perfect and I've got all this stuff figured out. And that's why I love the stream so much. When I channel the stream, that is perfection. That is full enlightenment. That is source. That is, coming through me is all of that. And I have a picture of what that looks like. But I also have such a clear picture of what that looks like that the flawed version of David,
Right.
there's so much more that I can experience as a human being, not trying to be this walking channel that's always has that flowing. And so having a coach that works with me to go deeper into my shadow, that's amazing. I love doing that. I'm not addicted to it. You know, I
Yeah,
space it out until I really get to that edge of, okay, there's something else there and I can't quite identify exactly what it is. And I want to know it and I want to heal it. And I know in
right.
the healing of it, I'm going to expand in the healing of it. And the stream is not here to take that away from any of us.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like you've always mentioned, if we didn't, have the obstacles and the things to work on, we'd have too many yachts everywhere, right? And, and
Yeah,
mansions.
you know, people think law of attraction is you sit and think of something and it pops up into reality, and it doesn't work like that. It
No.
does work. It absolutely works. We all know that it does. But the life journey is about discerning our preferences and moving through the experience of detuning the transgressor stuff that pops up for us, detuning our obstacles, and making ourselves more sophisticated beings in the process of creation through the unwanted,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which is wonderful,
Find,
wonderful.
finding
But
our,
again, most people don't want to hear that. Most people want to hear that there's some, there's some perfect switch that you're going to flick. In fact, that's going to bring me to my next topic, and I see that Cheryl is on. Cheryl, I want to thank you for answering my question that posted in the group yesterday. Those of you that are members of the Tya Practice group, we have tons and tons of teaching tools in the Tya Practice Facebook group. I know it's Facebook. So I know that Facebook is not everyone's favorite thing anymore, or if it ever was, but it's a space that you can come and begin learning this practice, preparing yourselves to get into boot camp, because boot camp is the holy grail. And I do believe that all of humanity needs to take Tya Boot Camp, because it would really shift. Do I think all of humanity is going to take Tya Boot Camp? No. But I would love to see more and more of humanity really wake up from the matrix and find a process, whether it's this or something else, to detune the matrix in their lives. And we say detune because it's not eradicate.
yeah.
But I posted this question in the group. We have all of this stuff that we've put into the group that you can begin learning. Well, the problem with the group, and I hate to sound so cynical, but the group is free. And when things are free, people tend to not do them because they think they don't have value. But there is a wealth of information in the group and a wealth of training in the group and guides in the group to point you in the right direction. We don't coach in the group. You know, we're not in there offering free coaching and stuff like that. I'm not pretending like that at all. If we're going to exchange the energy of coaching, we're going to exchange dollars in the energy of coaching. You know, that's we can do a whole Tya talk on energy exchange and why that's so important, because it is part of our world. And this idea that all spiritual stuff should be free. I've heard that since I started this. Anything spiritual should be free. Then you create things that are free and nobody pays attention. But Cheryl did. So you create things that are free, and people don't go in and do the work. When people get into boot camp and pay good money to get into boot camp, they stick around and they do the work and they go deep. Isn't it funny how our world is like that? Yet money is so demonized.
Yes.
But everyone respects it.
Right.
Because if you offer something for free, it doesn't have the same level of respect as the stuff that you charge for.
Well,
So what an interesting concept, right?
Well, money's energy, right? So we're putting our energy into it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all money is energy. And anybody that thinks that anything should be free, understand that we all project it into this system of commerce, just like we project it into our system of government. You know, we project it into all of it. Understand also that source is present in all things.
Yes.
Source is present in the stock market. Source is present in the baking industry. Source is present in the Democrat and Republican Party. Source is. All things are of source. Now, there's plenty of human ego drive that is separating from source and those things, but source is still there, just like source is in all of us, regardless of how we're living our lives. So when we're demonizing something, we're actually giving it power. So that's why demonizing the vaccine or demonizing the anti-vaxxers, demonizing the Democrats, demonizing the Republicans, demonizing Trump, all of that stuff, if you really don't want more of that and you're demonizing it, you are empowering it, no matter what it is. So to go
Absolutely.
back to the financial system, you are not going to be at the top of the financial pyramid by criticizing it, demonizing it, and doing anything but loving it.
Yeah.
And so when people talk about spiritual teachings on this topic and demonize the exchange of dollars for the energy exchange that is offered up,
Mm.
then they're not fully understanding that they chose to project into the system, and their demonization of it is just another form of self-sabotage to hold them away from it. And that happens a lot. People self-sabotage away from going deeper into this practice. Oh, boot camp costs money, I can't do that, I just have to do the free stuff. And then we notice the people that are just doing the free stuff never get it. The people
Right.
that choose to manifest their way into boot camp, oh my gosh, you're all shouting it from the rooftops, because there's
Right.
been that exchange of energy that takes place. And most people don't have the money burning the hole in their pocket they get into boot camp. For most
No.
people, it's a stretch. It's
Yeah.
an investment. So it's interesting to me that we have this free thing that we do, that we offer so much in. And I asked this question, yesterday early in the group, what tools have you used? And it
Mhm.
took 24 hours for one response to come in.
Oh
I don't even
goodness.
think it got any likes.
Ah!
Nobody even liked it. Nobody even liked it. But one response, and it was Cheryl that finally responded, to where she is in her journey, and
Uh-huh.
talks about going next into boot camp. So it's that once you get into that journey, boot camp is the next logical step. But you're never going to get there if you just shut down and say, "Well, I'm not going to spend money on this. It's probably a
Right.
ripoff. It's probably not
Right.
going to work for me," even though we have all these other people saying that it's not. That self-saboteur saying, "No, that's not going to work for you. You can't do that. You can't spend money on it. They shouldn't charge for this." That little battle that goes on in our mind. It's so entertaining to me to watch people go through that journey and lighten up from it.
Mhm.
They're like, evolve in their thinking to money is energy. It flows in, it flows out.
Right.
Abundance is flowing to us all the time. If we're not receiving abundance in every way, we're the ones that's cutting it off.
Right. For me anymore, it's just, I where the world's going, you don't know. But the one thing I can do always to be kind of at ease is to invest in myself, right? To really find ways for myself to grow and invest in me, because I know then that I'll have the tools I need to continue flowing along. So
Yeah.
investing in yourself is
Well,
super
anything that
important.
you invest in, the money flows back to you if you simply allow it to.
Yes.
I've had so many people come into boot camp and have the price they pay for boot camp manifest it right back, so
Right.
if not instantaneously, because they finally gave themselves permission. They jumped in, they did it, they exchanged the energy, they went up their spiral, and that money, it creates a vacuum. You put money out and it flows right back in when you allow that vacuum to be. But if you're judging yourself and you're stressing, I shouldn't have spent that money. Oh my God.
Right.
How
Yeah.
many times have you done that and tortured yourself and then saw the universe give you more evidence of you're right? In your bubble of reality, you should not have spent that money. In your bubble of
Right.
reality, this was a bad investment. In your bubble of reality, this was a waste, because
Right.
you created that as your bubble of reality. Hello, Lorraine. So Lorraine is saying hello, and I see Cheryl. I see somebody on Facebook saying something. I'm not sure what.
I'm not sure.
So if you have questions for us or comments, or if you disagree, it's completely okay to disagree with us. And we were kind of talking about the topic early on about finding your authentic spiritual journey, or your authentic spiritual teacher. And the best way to discern any preference is to completely remove fear and judgment from the topic and see how you feel about it when you remove fear and judgment. If I feel no judgment and I have no fear and I'm observing this, does it resonate with me now? If it doesn't resonate with you, move on. You're not in alignment with it. And if it's crossing your path, you probably are somewhat in alignment with it, or you wouldn't be experiencing it, or you are in alignment with it, really, or you wouldn't be experiencing it. So think about that too. Is this offering me something? And sometimes the things and the teachers that ruffle your feathers, that get under your skin, you've manifested them for a reason.
Right.
And if anything is triggering you in our teachings, that's exactly what you want to look at.
Yep.
Why is this triggering me? What is in this for me that's drawing me to this? And gosh, if I'm getting a trigger negative emotion from it, and if I take the judgment and fear out of it, maybe I want to go deeper into it instead of
Mhm.
run from it, right?
Right. That's where the learning comes from, right? That's where the expansion comes
Mhm.
from, really, you know?
Looking at your stuff, shining the light on those corners, what's down there? What's in the basement of my vibrational spiral? We talk about the muck down in the basement all the time. That
Right.
boot camp's all about clearing out all that muck and raising your default vibration, but really looking at the muck.
Yeah. But it does. I mean, it lightens you, right? You just feel lighter
Yeah.
um, by doing that.
Yeah. Well, and you find yourself just automatically on a more abundant journey.
Yes.
Everything just starts flowing with greater ease when
Mhm.
you systematically raise your vibration. And it
Yeah.
really is about allowing that natural source consciousness to step forward and be realized, because it's always there. It does not forsake you. It does
No.
not. And like we
Yeah.
were saying earlier, source is in everything. So if you're judging something, you're judging source, because source isn't judging. That's why we look at humanity and say that life isn't fair, because life isn't. It's not fair. The whole concept of fairness. Good lord. Yeah, it's not supposed to be.
It's supposed
The concept of fairness means that we would all be dialed into the exact same vibration.
hmm
So we'd
Yeah.
all be having the same experience. So we would want for nothing.
Right.
But the issue there is, when you want for nothing, then you're not expanding, because there's no grit in your
Right.
experience. And the grit is exactly what creates the traction to
Right.
go higher and higher and higher.
When you mentioned this topic, I that's the word I thought of, the grit, And it's the grit, right, that keeps us moving along. And just in thinking of other spiritual teachers too, it really is, not just having better thoughts, I notice for myself that I go down and I come up much quicker in my spiral because I just am at peace with it.
I
Because,
love that. I
yeah,
love that. The being at peace, the surrender, if you will.
right.
Surrender is everything, because once you surrender to something, your vibration goes up, and the solution to whatever you're surrendering to just manifests
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah. And that's what I
Because
love too.
because we're naturally abundant. So
Right.
Sam says source is everything. So if you're judging anything, you're judging source. Oh shit, yes. Yeah. And understand that source is not judging us for judging it.
Yes. Right.
The source doesn't judge anything. But we have this source awareness that
Mhm.
we identify as pure love. And when we love ourselves, we're so at one with that energy. And if you don't love yourself, start doing that today.
Yes.
Start doing, if you want any kind of therapy at all, the love yourself therapy is the fast track to allowing
Absolutely.
more source, and allowing more source is the fast track to more abundance. And then noticing how the little things start to shift and start to show up in your world, and don't write the little things off. Celebrate there. Still to this day, when I started getting into all this stuff and I had my Kundalini awakening, and I'd see those numbers lining up on the clocks all the time,
Uh-huh.
1111 and 111, those are my big ones.
Right.
The
Right.
ones are my big ones. And I still, to this day, as jaded as I could be, because I've been experiencing it for 14 years now, I
Right.
still celebrate just the little old numbers lining up for me.
Yes.
Or the birds chirping in the morning. I go outside and meditate, and I hear those birds chirping, and that song that they sing, I still appreciate that. I
hmm
still see that as a manifestation in my bubble of reality. And then the more of those little things you start to celebrate, the more you start your wheels turning of moving up that vibrational spiral, and start attracting bigger things in which to appreciate,
Absolutely.
all the way up,
Yeah.
all the way up. So Erica, what else do you have for us? What are your thoughts on, any other thoughts on picking spiritual teachers?
I just I think for me, when I was thinking about it, some of the spiritual teachers I followed in the past, there's like it's not about work, right? It's just about maybe slightly about work and thinking better thoughts and We talked about putting your head in the sand, and that's what a lot of it feels like. Just trying to get your mind to think different, which is really hard when you're not unpacking the attic or the basement of what's really in there. And so I appreciate doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where so much of the revelations come from and the expansion. So, yeah.
The work, it seems like work in the beginning. We like to call it work because it is work, but the work becomes very joyful.
Yes.
The work turns into a whole lot of fun because the actual the work systematically raises your vibration. The work brings clarity. The
Mm-hmm.
work brings joy. And ultimately, when you get to that clear, joyful place, abundance just becomes more readily available, whatever your version of abundance is. Abundance means anything and everything. You get to define what your version of abundance is always. And it can be money. It can be money. We don't sell Tya Boot Camp as a get rich quick program because that's not what most people getting into boot camp. But lots of people manifest money when they raise their vibration. So it can be money if that's your main motivator. What tends to happen is you get into this spiritual journey and money becomes less important.
Yes.
In fact, I did that hierarchy, my personal hierarchy. This isn't a rule. We don't have rules in Tya, but my personal hierarchy was health and wellness is now my number one. I really let that fall. And now it's number one. If I don't have my health and I don't feel great and my physical vehicle isn't functioning at its best level, then the other things don't matter as much. So health and wellness is at the top of my hierarchy now. The second thing is personal sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Having that freedom to think how we want and do what we want, because I do see that coming under attack.
Right.
I do, and that got my attention. And I have never, I've gone through my period of having to turn off the news and everything. I've always kind of just kept an eye on politics,
Right.
but detuning the polarity of it,
Mm-hmm.
not needing to be left or right. You don't need to be left or right. You just need to be aware of what's going on and then discern your preference
Mm-hmm.
by who's trying to take your freedom to think how you want to think away. If you want to think of it in terms, and this is pretty low vibe, but a lot of people say they vote for the lesser of the two evils.
Right.
So for me, it has always sort of been that because I've always thought all of it was BS, that none of them are really working for the people. It's kind of a smoke and mirrors. It's an element of control. I get all that.
That's
But
what I said.
still,
Mirrors.
when we see that the matrix is trying to turn in such a way that our ability to put a vaccine in our body or not is going to become mandated.
Right.
And I'm not, beating the drum of anti or pro vax. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
personal choice for everybody, but that's what I think. It's a
Absolutely.
personal choice for everyone. And then
Yes.
you're going to have someone tell you that you've got to get this thing. And the people that are beating that drum the loudest, you can trace back to the dollars, and there's usually a drug company involved somewhere in generating dollars that's pushing that agenda.
Right.
And that's a red flag for me. Like, ooh, why? So you're going to tell me that I've got to get a vaccine?
Yes.
I discerned a preference to get it in the beginning. I may not discern a preference to do it again.
Right.
And that was simply the path of least resistance. It wasn't, the stream said, in your bubble of reality, you can create a reality where you get it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you're not fearing it and you're following your path of least resistance for abundance, there's no getting it wrong.
Right.
There's no getting it wrong. And I get that. I really get that. We all create our bubble of reality. That's why you can get it and have just a fine time having it. You can get it and have a horrific experience getting it. And you
Yes.
can not get it and be just fine. And you can not get it and have a horrible experience not getting it. It really is mindset first. So the freedom is important.
Absolutely.
So all of us that want to follow all this kooky spiritual stuff, you do need to pay attention enough to notice that if someone is encroaching upon your freedom to think what you want to think, maybe you should look at that. You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to look at anything. You can be completely out there, source aligned, abundant all the time. But for me, it's, we shouldn't be fearing anything. So if
No.
we want to look at the matrix and say, gosh, the political matrix is sort of doing this now. How do I put my hands in that and and give it love and give it
Right.
light without dipping into the fear and judgment aspect of it? And then if you want to discern a preference to vote, then how do I vote? So
Right.
that's how you should handle that if you choose to. But I don't think anybody has to do that. You know, you can be an abundant being and ignore all of it for sure. I just like to personally pay attention that, okay, when's it going to turn to you're not allowed to channel anymore?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be spiritual. You have to be this or nothing.
Right.
Because we know there are environments where that's the experience. And maybe that's just it. Maybe we manifest an experience where we're all shut down, we're all canceled.
Right.
We have to, the sense of community is gone, but I don't want that to happen. So it's this
No.
delicate balance of being involved and having an opinion without getting drawn into the matrix of it. For me,
Right.
everyone
And I
else, you get to discern your preference and do what you want or not.
Yeah. And I think in many ways too, it's for me and how do I put it? Finding a way to be embody, right, what I want, right? So in everyday choices, how can we be more free? Those types of things too, because
Mhm.
I think then we welcome it a little bit more.
Yeah, just more freedom is always, I would always err on the side of more freedom. So if you're trying to decide on a spiritual teacher, really taking fear and judgment out of it and seeing what resonates with you and understanding that getting under your skin a little bit can sometimes mean that there's something there for you. It's not
Right.
just about, oh, love and light, this is great, we're all going to flow here together. That's good. Especially if you're suffering and that brings relief.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Right.
This is more for, let's get down and do some work. Let's get down and see what's in the basement. Let's get down and see what's in the lower vibrational field and work on that. And really the work is all about appreciating it, bringing it into the light, seeing how it serves you,
Right.
seeing how everything serves you. So every experience is in service of your expansion, always, always, always. That's why we get to put our hands in the clay with anything that we want,
Yes.
which is a great way to operate life, and then discern a preference toward whatever you want, whether it's not voting at all or having a preference for a little more control or a little less.
Mm-hmm.
You get to decide.
Yeah.
So
And
the,
make that
the,
your
the
reality.
picking the teacher and the picking the politics or not, or even the politician, is sort of all the same thing.
Yeah.
Discerning your preference, knowing that you can't possibly get it wrong, and that
Right.
whoever's in power doesn't have power over you.
Right.
Because the dipping into the demonization of it, whatever you're demonizing, you're giving power to in your life on any topic, always.
And I think that's a big one for so many of us to really like realize, we
Yeah,
think that we think getting on a social media and doing our rants
yeah.
is helping.
Everyone wants to be heard, but yeah, the
Yeah.
pushing against and the fighting and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff is not my bag. So we did put the link up to book a discovery meeting for Tya Boot Camp. We're really focusing on boot camp in February. We just had our live masterclass on Saturday. If you didn't get the masterclass, we're going to be posting in the group as soon as the replay is done to watch the masterclass. Every time we do a masterclass, it seems to just raise in vibration and get better and better and better and better. And this last one was amazing.
That's
And we had, again, most of the audience stayed on for 2 solid hours. I'm
yeah.
I'm still amazed that
I
people stay
know.
on with us for 2 hours because, you know, I don't stay on many things for 2 hours unless I'm really getting something out of it. So I think people were really getting something out of it from that. And we have a lot of people coming into boot camp now. We have a lot of people that are booking discovery meetings and really talking about it. They're ready. So if you're ready, this is your link. If you are
Yeah.
intrigued, this is your link to do that. Talk to our enrollment coaches. You see all of the testimonials that we post in here all the time. If you haven't seen, gosh, we posted 2 in the group, and they're in the Facebook group too, and in the YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, we have a whole playlist of testimonials. And in fact, I think we're still adding some new ones to that. And then in the Facebook group, we posted 2 fantastic new testimonials
They
this
were really
week.
good. Yeah.
Shannon and Kate, go
Kate.
watch those, and you will
Yes.
definitely be inspired. And then if it scares you, that means book a discovery meeting.
It
If it
does.
intrigues you, book a discovery meeting. Either way, that's a polarized emotion. That means there's something there for you. Book the discovery meeting and talk to our enrollment coaches about boot camp and see that you can have the same experience that they're having, that Erica had.
Yes. Yes.
Life's changed a lot, hasn't it?
It has. It has. Yeah.
For everybody, but the boot camp experience tends to bring such clarity and helps you just systematically raise your vibration.
Absolutely. And just honestly deal with life, as it comes. So
Trip out of the matrix for sure. Erica, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
joining me today, and the audience. Thank all of you for all of your wonderful questions and comments. Keep them coming because this stays up in all of these mediums. So if you're watching this in the future, put a comment in, ask a question. If you tag one of us in a question, we'll answer you. If you're in Facebook and you tag us, we'll answer you. YouTube, not so much. But you can ask questions on YouTube. You can comment on YouTube. You can share. You can subscribe. I always, I never think to tell everybody to do all that stuff, but do that. Do that, because if you're not on Facebook, the YouTube channel is a great way to get all this.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thanks again, Erica. See you tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific for Claim Your Power Hour.
Yes.